Okay, so I had the chance to watch Mortal Engines recently, and I thought that I'd give my 2 cents on the movie. Now I know what some of you were thinking. Mortal Engines, what wasn't that a huge box office failure? Wasn't that met with a lot of banning criticism? Well, yes, but when you're on a 6 hour flight, I enjoy watching something brainless to help block out the sound of crying children, which greatly reduces my urge to want to open the emergency doors and send us all plummeting to our deaths 35,000 feet above. But anyway, um, I had the chance to watch Peter Jackson produced. He didn't direct it, but he definitely did produce it. And you might know Peter Jackson from such indie films as The Hobbit, the Lord of the Rings trilogy, King Kong, really small time movies. But what what I thought was really interesting was the fact that this movie was not as bad as everyone said it was. But then again, I did watch Alita Battle Angel on the same flight, so I think that really put things into perspective for me. Or maybe I should just stop watching shitty movies in general. But the story follows, oh, it's end of the world, apocalyptic scenario, future. It's set in the future, and these towns and cities can move on tracks. And I think what baffles my mind is how you take a concept about cities that float in the air, cities that crab walk over the oceans, and cities that fucking panzer over entire landscapes on these giant tracks and turn it into the most generic summer blockbuster ever. Um, I know it's based on a book, but I'm not a nerd. I didn't read the book, and I'm here to talk about the movie. I'm sure the book is infinitely better than the movie. Most books always are. But it's just, it was kind of disappointing to see so many talented actors, especially Hugo Weaving, who I'm a huge fan of his work, especially in the Matrix movies, um, and V for Vendetta, and just seeing him become such a bland bad guy. I think that's one of my biggest problems with the movie is the actors seem to do a good job of portraying their characters, but the dialogue is just so inhuman. Is that no two people or more, if you ever get the chance, have a human conversation. It's always either one liners like, oh yeah, if you're the dinosaur then I'm the meteor, like wow, you really spent a lot of time on that one. Or it's just exposition. It's like, yeah, this is the part of the story where I tell you that the green zombie man raised me, because I know we haven't been talking really, but I read the script and this is the part where I'm supposed to do it, so I guess here's my story. And it's none of it is ever organic. It just seems like it was written by people who are like, we need to continue the story. People are gonna get bored if we don't exposition everything to them and spoon feed it, and it just gets so tiring so quick. Graphics wise, I think this movie is pretty impressive. I thought the CGI was really cool. I feel like Peter Jackson always does a good job when it comes to that department. It's not like he's in charge of the department, but I think if you see Peter Jackson's name on a movie, the the CGI is going to be pretty good. Story, I'll leave that up to you and the fans of the Hobbit trilogy to decide. So the story follows that after World War X, they use quantum weapons to destroy the Earth's crust, and now it's like 1,000 years in the future, and everyone cities drive on tracks, or they just kind of get away from the surface. And that's a pretty interesting concept. I think the first act of the movie kind of delivers like this big opening where you see small towns that are kind of motorcycles in comparison to London, which is like a giant B-52 but with wheels. That's really interesting, and I think it opens up strong, but almost immediately the story starts shoving random characters in your faces. And not all of them are important. In fact, a lot of the characters are just really there for like filler. They have no purpose later on in the movie, but they're introduced so early that you start to think like, am I supposed to pay attention to this guy, this lady, her? Who do I really care about in general? Another pet peeve of mine with movies like this is, and I mean it's probably a nitpick, but I feel like shoving in random science words together doesn't really make it any more interesting or make it make any more sense. Like they say, oh, it's a quantum weapon. What does that mean? Whatever. And you need fusion inverters to what is it? You can't just shove a science word and a car part and then expect people to go, whoa, fusion inverters, oh my god, the Bose-Einstein crankshaft. It doesn't really, it makes you sound stupid. And I don't know if that was what they're called in the book, but it just kind of sounded silly. Probably one of the biggest what moments that I had was really early on in the beginning, and I feel like other people have touched on this in some of the reviews I've seen, but I'd forgotten about it until I saw that scene, and it blew my mind that this was an actual scene in the movie. Early on, when London's chasing like a small town, these people in the museum, these people are there in the museum, and everything's shaking, and one of the guys goes, "Oh no, the old world deities!" And then they zoom out, and it's statues of the minions. Now, I know this is just you, Universal. I know you guys are really proud of the minions since they're probably the only thing making you money. But my question is, did anyone working on this film at any point come in and say, maybe, maybe we shouldn't put this scene here or in the movie at all because it's at the very beginning and it kind of makes the audience question the tone of the movie, and especially because it's the only scene of its kind in the entire movie. Did anyone with any artistic integrity say anything? No, no, okay, yeah, I mean, fuck me. Like, what would I know about movies? Overall, I mean, the book may have been similar or different, but this is a movie we've seen a billion times before. The world has ended, and now people live in a dystopia, and then the bad guy finds a super weapon, and oh no, we have to stop bad guy and said super weapon before he does something really bad with it. Where have I seen this movie before? Huh. All in all, Mortal Engines is not the worst movie I have ever seen. It was time pass, and it did help block out the sound of this one kid crying on the plane. And that I think that helped me save some of my sanity, which is kind of ironic since I did it by watching this movie. But then again, as I mentioned, I did watch Alita Battle Angel, and so everything, you take everything in comparison.